I'm Matthew Sanford. I'm a solutions architect. Been with Zerto about 4.5 years. Now we're part of the larger HPE family, and going to tell you a little bit about IT resilience and maybe touch on a few things that previous private speaker Ronald talked about as well that are concerns these days. So again, this is going to be probably a topic that's going to be available for probably on a lot of people's brains these days is just securing the network, as it was talked about. So really to us, we're actually about trying to ensure that the business is a 24/7 business, especially in the medical healthcare, because people come in 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and if something is not running, it can be life-threatening or critical. So you really have to worry about managing all your disruptions, not just little things you worry about, but there's all kind of things to worry about. And essentially we see it as both planned and unplanned disruptions. And the unplanned ones are what we call bad disruptions. Those are acts of God. We're in the tornado alley, in part of Georgia, and sometimes hurricanes and storms hit this area. So there's a lot of natural disasters that can take out a power line, et cetera. And there's also ransomware. That's really not planned for, but it happens a lot. In fact, I was reading today that I think all of Iran's gasoline gas station pumps were taken offline by a massive cyber attack. So if you're trying to drive to the hospital, take your wife to the hospital because you've got a baby on its way and you're out of gas, that could be, pretty terminal situation. So it's kind of, you think about how these things cascade down. File disruptions, users deleting things and cleaning out their inbox. Those are, a critical file that you need to be able to get back fast. And, a lot of times you have to go to last night's backup, so the data is already old and a lot of work is a lot of loss. So you really have to worry about it. And then there's also legal requirements around, being able to recover files back in time. So yes, you might be able to go to last night's backup or recover something from a few minutes ago, but you also have to keep it for, the medical industry is heavily regulated. HIPAA data says you have to keep it, death plus 10 years or some long requirements. So you really have to think about being able to recover files from prior back, maybe case studies or drug studies or whatever. You have to be able to recover that data. So unplanned disruptions are really a drain on the staff, the time and the budget, and really you would like to just completely minimize those. So you need to be able to have a system that's automated, very simple, and can cover pretty much all of the business requirements while really minimizing the impact on the staff. And then there's what we also call the planned disruptions. I like to consider these as good because these are what IT is constantly evaluating and integrating new technologies into their operations. I think the buzzword that was used in the last year or so, hopefully it's been put out, but is IT transformation. And I think I always kind of laugh when I hear IT transformation because I think we've been transforming the data center ever since IT took off back in the 1970s. So it's always been one new technology, one new feature, one new upgrade, faster, cheaper, whatever. So I think IT transformation has just been part of IT ever since it's been around. But you really have to kind of keep pace with those expectations and reduce the cost. So these business driving initiatives like migrations, moving to the cloud, testing out new software, being able to do patch management, they're necessary, but they also can be disruptive. So you want to also be able to react quickly and more efficiently to those things and have it be less impact on the environment. So really, being able to protect both a unplanned and a planned event is really what Zerto considers IT resilience all about. So our platform, it's software only. It's based on a foundation of continuous data protection. So we don't do any snapshots. There's no agents. A single product allows you to do operational recovery, long-term retention, hybrid hypervisors, multiple cloud support platforms as shown at the bottom there, and operational services. So we combine all of that into a single product. And we orchestrate and automate that are built into the platform so you can automate the manual processes that you do today to recover. So now your staff resources can focus on what drives the business forward and keep those planned type of disruptions at very minimal. Oops, went a little too fast there. So we wrap analytics and control around that with out-of-the-box dashboards and reports so you can have complete visibility of your entire data center environments, your cloud deployments as well, and you can make sure that you have your SLAs being met with the application. So one thing we like to ask when we come into an account is, what are have you done any tiering around your applications? So tier 0, tier 1, have you built SLAs for your recovery time objective, recovery point objectives, formerly known as RTO and RPO, around those? So a lot of folks have, some haven't, but again, we try to find out, those applications that are very, very important that you have to get back up and running. Those are the ones we like to talk to that have the most impact. I was talking to a bank yesterday, and they said they have a 4-hour RTO to get ATM machines back up and running. It's a federal requirement, or they can be audited by the feds and have some very big fines. So, they really are concerned about that. And in the medical field, it's even more important. You got to get these machines back up and running. As Ronald said, they have redundant everything at Wellstar, just because, if one fails, you need to have something else back up and running really quick and a second copy of it, because you are dealing with people's lives. So that is very important. But Zerto is a software-only platform. We're storage and server agnostic, so there's no dependencies on specific maker models. And other than the vendors we have listed below that we do have deep integration with, those are the ones that we work with. In fact, I just got off a call with Microsoft Azure doing an install into their new ABS platform. So a new platform support there as well. So really, there's 4 key advantages that we, being a software-only platform, have that really makes us different than other vendors. And one is we work with the best of breed, hypervisors out there, VMware and Hyper-V. And our replication is based at the hypervisor layer. So again, it's native and agentless to ensure continuous availability. So we don't have any requirements for plugins to specific storage arrays or servers. It works completely at the hypervisor layer or at the cloud layer. And second, we have journaling around that. So essentially, our secret sauce is to be able to track changes in real time. So as we're replicating virtual machines from one site to another site or a third site, we put a checkpoint in the replication stream about every 5 seconds or so. So now you have recovery points in seconds versus going to an hours old or days old snapshot or backup location. So again, it's very fast. Oops, I keep hitting the wrong mouse button. And again, third, moving and recovering data has to be about ensuring your applications are moved to recover as a single entity. So a lot of times, a application in your environment, it's not just a single server, it's a database server, an app server, a web server. You need to be able to recover that as a single object. So Zerto has a capability to handle that, and I'll talk about that a little bit more shortly. And then lastly is simplicity. Admins are worrying about so many different things. As Ronald said, he's got a lot of things on his plate, and you want to be able to do it very simple. So my fastest install to have someone installed, protected of an application is 40 minutes from start to finish. So Zerto is not one of the products that takes hours to deploy, weeks to learn. Our training class is a 2.5-hour, self-paced training class. So your users can pick up, real quickly, a platform that can protect VMware, Hyper-V, AWS, Azure, GCVE, and over 400 cloud service providers that we work with for colos or DRaaS services. So again, a lot of folks said asked if our red was the Zerto staples button for easy button, and I wish we had thought of that, because we could have definitely used that. So again, we revolutionized and simplified replication by moving it up into the hypervisor and away from the servers and storage. And we include all the automation and integration in a single solution. So it can replace pretty much everything you were trying to do before, all in one simple product. So again, the deployment, the uninstall requires no reboots, no downtime, no agents, no snapshots. It'll work if you have EMC at your source site, HPE at your target site, Dell, 3PAR, Nimble. We don't care. It's completely agnostic to the hardware layer. So you can have, unlike equipment at both locations, you buy what you want. There's no lock-in to any hardware and storage, so you get to pick and choose whatever you want. And it also reduces any impact to your production and removes the scheduling requirements and snapshots or agents. So we used to, it might still be out there on YouTube, but there was a video called, Snapshot High Impact Time. You can figure out the acronym for that one. But we don't do any snapshots, so there's no impact to your application servers either when it's running. So you really don't have to worry about buying more memory or CPU just to protect your servers. So just high level architecture. I'm an engineer and I tend to go into the weeds, but I'll try to stay out of the weeds. But really simple, a typical production site and a secondary site. And again, these can be bidirectional replication. They don't have to be one way. So we do support both. But the Zerto Virtual Manager, or ZVM, is just a Windows application running on a server that you have at both sites. And forgot to mention also, I can go from vCenter to System Center and vice versa. So from Hyper-V to VMware and VMware to Hyper-V. So we can even migrate from one platform to another if you're looking to switch, or we can go to unlike servers, or if you acquire another company that was running, say you're a Hyper-V shop and you bought someone that's VMware or vice versa, you can use it easily to migrate them into your environment. But what we do is we deploy a very hardened little Debian Linux server called the Virtual Replication Appliance, one per your hypervisor host at your source and destination. And then we're able to replicate the entire VM in real time from site A to site B and site C concurrently, all at the storage layer. And we're only replicating what's consumed by the virtual machines. So it's very efficient, unlike storage-based replication. If you have 100 servers, 100 guests, and there are 5 terabytes of storage consumed at the OS layer, we're only going to replicate 5 terabytes. The array-based replication requires you to have like-to-like servers, and those 100 VMs might be sitting on 15 or 20 terabytes of LUNs, which you have to replicate those LUNs. You're wasting a lot of disk space and a lot of bandwidth. So Zerto is really good about that, and we do it continuously, asynchronously from site A to site B. Just ask for 5 megabit or higher connection. It sounds like Wellstar's got 40 gigs, so they can handle it pretty well. Most people do. I haven't seen a 5 megabit in quite a while. That's almost a dial-up line. But again, that's it on the architecture on premise. It's very simple. And then if you go to the cloud, we take this ZVM and the VRA and install it as a Windows server in Azure or IBM or AWS. So if you ever go to the AWS marketplace and look for Zerto, you would see it pre-installed out there in the right machine class and size to go ahead and deploy it in your subscription. So again, you're learning one product, and you're versatile in VMware, Hyper-V, Azure, AWS, GCVE, IBM Cloud. So if you're looking to really lower cost and streamline, it's a great way to do it. To use it to migrate between clouds. I had clients that went from on-premise to AWS, and then they moved some of the workload to Azure, and then they moved from Azure to AWS. Maybe I had some clients that decided, hey, not everything was great to run up in the public cloud. They used Zerto to migrate from the cloud back on premise. So it gives you a lot of flexibility within the product to move in, out, or between clouds. We can go between Azure regions. We'll be supporting going between AWS regions very soon. So even if you are migrating from on-premise up to the cloud, we can still protect you afterwards between regions of the 2 primary cloud providers. So these are what Zerto checkpoints sort of look like. So we're taking checkpoints every 5 seconds. So if I was working and disaster hit at 10 a.m., so with Zerto, if we did a snapshot at 9:59 and 55 seconds, I literally can roll back files, folders, a single machine, a group of machines, or your entire site to seconds before that point in time happened. You would just need to detect when that event occurred. And Zerto can do a non-disruptive failover test to your secondary location, whether it's on-prem, the colo, the public cloud, and bring up that machine at 9:59, 55, or I can go back in 5-second intervals to find a clean point in time to recover from. So you can make sure that that system is back up and running real quickly. Had one customer, they here in town, Georgia Court of Appeals, they had a database that had 75 years of historical information in it. Well, someone fat fingered the database server and completely deleted it. So they went to last night's backup, which in their case was 10 p.m. and they had already lost, almost 12 hours of data. Well, they hadn't tested their backups for a while, so the backup restore actually failed. So it's a bit of a what he called a resume generating event, or RGE for this in the tech field. But he was also using Zerto, so he did a failover, brought that machine up with just 5 seconds of data loss and was able to bring it back up and running real quickly with only a minimal amount of time of data loss, and the machine came up, about 10 minutes. So again, A lot of times, you can go to backup, and if you haven't been tested them, it's a good way to get back up and running with very minimal data loss when time is money. And that's really the big difference of Zerto versus snapshot-based backup technologies. One kind of test case or use case is .well. They were, as I said, they were hit with a crypto locker, and were able to get back up real quickly within 15 minutes, and just very minimal data loss. So again, time is money, and in healthcare, that could have been patients coming to get checked in, emergencies, life or death situations. Time is very important. I remember seeing a Grey's Anatomy episode. I can't remember how long ago it was, but they were all working, and all of a sudden you saw that virus pop up on their screen, and they had locked all their desktops. So they kind of went into a panic situation, and I wish they'd had Zerto to show on the episode. But it's real. Healthcare companies are probably targeted more than most people, I think, because they have to pay. They have to get out of crypto lock and get back up and running quickly, because people's lives are on the line. So we thought about working with crypto insurance companies as well to say, there's a way of if you're using Zerto and can get back up and running and do a test and prove your DR test, maybe it's a way of bringing down your ransomware insurance costs. So again, it's just a way of making sure you get back up and running real quickly with very minimal data loss. And I talked about the application stack recovery. So again, most applications are not a single server, they're a stack of servers. An app server, a web here in the front, an application tier, maybe file servers, and then maybe a database tier. So when you need to go and recover, Zerto is replicating all these virtual machines to the exact same point in time down to the second. So when you need to do a DR test, we can bring them all up at the exact same point in time down to the second. So your recovery time is essentially how fast VMware, Hyper-V, Azure, AWS can power on those servers. I also did a DR test this morning with a large law firm in town, and going to Azure for their use case, and we got them back up in 7 minutes. So very quickly, they're able to bring the server up and generate a nice recovery report. So if you have auditors and DR tests you have to do, within a few seconds, we can generate a report that shows you exactly what we did, all the steps, the start and stop time. We calculate the RTO for you, so you can hand it off to the auditors or management and say, here's our DR tests, and here's the paperwork to prove it. So the cool thing about Zerto versus traditional backup products is usually you're backing up with backup. You're backing up servers based on application type. So you have a backup job for database servers, a job for web servers, job for file servers, a job for app servers, and they're usually kicking off at different points in the time. So if you need to recover that entire application, one, you have to go find the server in that job and recover it, and it could be off by 2 hours from all the other guys. So really, you're looking at having to restore everything back down, or roll forward, roll back to the lowest common denominator time, which we call backup skew. In fact, Tinkanti was another one of our customers, and they speak a lot at our events, but they had a ransomware situation, and it took them 2 weeks to restore from backup because of the complexity and the backup skew. And then when they did DR test and they got hit again, they were able to get back up in just a few minutes. Because as you know, the ransomware guys typically, promise they won't hit you again, but they don't promise that they won't sell your information back out on the dark web to somebody else on how they got in and accessed you. Because if they did just hit you again and again, no one would pay the ransom. So they know better to do that. But it's not saying they didn't publish that information out there. Hopefully, they did say that they were going to try not to target medical companies, anything life-threatening, but that doesn't mean there's some greedy ones out there that don't abide to that, even in the criminal world. So I think, as you know, with Colonial Pipeline here in Atlanta, that happened with them. We talked to them a couple weeks before they got hit with ransomware, and they were backed up, and they went to recover from their restore, which did have a copy of it, but because of the time it was taken to restore from a backup, they went ahead and paid the ransom. And after they got recovered and back up and running, they purchased Zerto recently, so they are now a Zerto customer to hopefully give them that fast recoverability from another ransomware attack. And hopefully that doesn't happen again, because we We know what it was like trying to find gas at a decent price here in Atlanta when that happened. So again, it's just really one interface. It's very simple. It's very seamless. It's just a few clicks to do a move or a migration or a failover or a failover test. It really is just a few clicks. The training class is just 2.5 hours online. I think I mentioned that. Certification around it. We have hands-on labs where you can learn the product. So again, simplicity is really what we try to do. And we have analytics as well with an iOS and Android-based app, so you can monitor your environment in real time. Again, no production impact testing to do DR tests for compliance requirements and send reports around that, as I mentioned. So again, it's just a very simple product. And another use case was Zerto Health. So very large healthcare system for Colorado and Kansas, over 17 hospitals, 100 physician practices, and over 20,000 employees. So they went from SRM and TSM. By saving costs of that, we're able to protect over 1,500 virtual machines. So by displacing the cost of a couple other complex and expensive products, they were able to cover pretty much the cost of moving towards Zerto. And then they also used Zerto to migrate 1,500 VMs and within just a few months to a new colo facility. I had another account here in town, Aaron's Rent Center. You've probably seen Aaron's Rent signs everywhere around. They were moving from a Atlanta data center to New Jersey. And then once they moved, they were going to protect to Azure. So we moved 1,200 VMs in a 3-week over 3 weeks, 400 each weekend over 3 different weekends, and migrated to the new data center. And the cool thing about Zerto is even when you do a migration, you have a way to move back in case something doesn't go right with the migration. You can quickly get back to a known good state. And then also, Zerto Health is, because we added backup as a feature in our version 7, we didn't charge for it. It was just something we turned on. We now allow you to keep data as long as you're required to by law for compliance tests, or those overpaid lawyers in Washington say you have to keep it. We can cover that data as long as you got storage for it.
Well,
yes, sure, Ron. Go ahead.
If you could start finishing up, because I know I want to bring up Gagan from Google, and all these great case studies are very appropriate, but just want to move it along.
Yep. I was just summarizing the scene. We pretty much had a lot of use cases for outages, ransomware, data protection, data center migrations, consolidations, cloud DR targets. Again, it's just really one product, but we handle a lot of different use cases, and just the total cost of ownership. Folks looking to save money. By going to a Zerto with an integrated backup product, you can reduce a lot of the complexity and costs that you spend a day, and it almost pays for the product itself. So again, just why Zerto is continuous availability. It's simple. It's multi-cloud, multi-product. And then again, just a summary, we're just been around a while, part of HPE now, lots of customers, lots of partners, and lots of other medical companies who have used Zerto.